Hi, it's Jim from Whiskey Congress again. Got another punch back for you. While I'm doing that, I'm drinking some Talisker Storm Scotch. We reviewed that on our last show. Yes, that is a bottle of Blanton's behind me. We'll be talking about that on the show that we'll be releasing this Sunday. Um, Talisker Storm is very good, but again, if you want to hear Steve and I review that, it's available on our previous episode. Today, I want to punch back at the NRA, particularly targeting Wayne LaPierre, Dana Loesch, and the other pundits that have gone on to use the same deflections and fear tactics to try to keep the people that are their membership and their supporters in line and afraid and not thinking logically. Um, I heard Wayne LaPierre say, he's the inventor of the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Well, in the case of the recent shootings, there were 4 good guys with guns who were unable to help. So one data point does not disprove logic, but the fact that there are very, very few, if any, data points supporting the good guy with a gun, bad guy with a gun logic, let's just say that's nonsense and move on. Um, so Wayne LaPierre gets up there and says things like the elitists are trying to take your freedoms away from you, trying to create a class vibe, class warfare vibe, and using fear tactics, which is what he's done for years. Dana Loesch got up there and said a bunch of things like the mass media loves these shootings because that gives them great ratings. And she backtracked a little bit, but she basically, again, vilified the media, make it sound like the media wants this thing, because it distracts away from the real issue, which is that 17 people lost their lives at the hands of a person with a gun that I won't describe as in any way other than a person with a gun who had very bad intentions and carried them out. Um, so anyway, these deflections are designed to divert you from logic and reason. And I'm asking people who support these organizations, think for a minute. For how long did they tell you Obama was going to take your guns? Obama had the White House, the Senate, and the Congress for 2 years, his first 2 years in office, and did nothing to restrict gun rights. In fact, he extended a few additional gun rights, things like Amtrak trains and federal parks. So it was illogical then. It didn't come true, but the NRA continues to amp up the fear, and it keeps working, and it needs to stop. I am a gun owner. There's a gun behind me on my wall. I used to be an NRA member. I stopped being an NRA member after Sandy Hook when Wayne LaPierre insulted my intelligence with the only way to stop a good guy with a gun is a bad guy with a gun argument. I thought it was foolish then. I thought it was an insult to the intelligence of the NRA membership, and I decided they would never get another dollar from me, and I've held true to that. Now, I do give Dana Loesch a little bit more credit than Wayne LaPierre because he does not leave the friendly confines. He does not go into public venues to speak where there are counterpoints being made directed at him. I consider that to be less than manly on Mr. LaPierre's part, but that's my opinion. And then there are other pundits going around there saying things like, well, we used to have guns in school lockers and whatever, and we didn't have school shootings, so what has changed? Again, a deflection to try to avoid dealing with the greater reality. Now, one thing I want to say also is, in this case, the murderer used an AR-15 type assault rifle. And I've heard some people say that those are, used for home defense and for hunting or sporting purposes. An AR-15 style assault rifle is a terrible choice for a home defense gun. It is a terrible choice for a hunting rifle. Awful. So anyone who wants to argue that with me, you can reach me at jim@whiskeycongress.com. Bring your arguments. Again, it's jim@whiskeycongress.com. Bring your arguments, but you're not going to have anything because for those two things, that particular weapon is a terrible choice. A thing about the AR-15, again, just talk about the general style. If you want to talk model numbers and break it down, nothing productive will come from that. But that is an easier weapon for mass murderers to use in terms of pointability and ease in control. Another thing you'll hear from people is that handguns are the source of the vast majority of gun-related deaths in the United States, and that is 100% true. And that's a different issue, and there could be discussions around that. But that doesn't change the fact that the AR-15 has nothing of value for home defense or sporting purposes. there's certain people I talk to about handguns all the time. Maybe we'll do that debate at a different time. But just because handguns cause more deaths doesn't mean AR-15s are a legitimate thing for American sportsmen or people looking to protect their homes. It doesn't make it a good choice. All right, now another thing that I've heard is that we used to not have these problems in the old days. What has changed? And that again is a deflection. It's a way of saying, oh, it's not the guns. The guns were always there. There's flaws in that argument. There are way many more guns now, and this specific type of assault rifle has not been around as long or in the kind of numbers for until the last 20 years or so, and that's when things have gotten worse. But that's not even what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about there is if you're saying, and again, I've heard a few pundits say this. The president sort of said it. You know, he blamed music and video games and movies. If you are saying that our culture has changed to the point where we can no longer be trusted with these I know that's not what you're trying to say. You're not trying to say that. You're trying to say, let's change all the other things and rewind things back to Mayberry and, kids walking down the gravel road, skipping rocks, and everyone was happy, yada, yada, yada. But the logical response to what you've said is that our culture has changed to the point where we now have a problem that didn't used to exist. And then the solution to that would be to change our regulations to fit our modern society, because you can't rewind the clock and bring back Mayberry. Again, I know that's not what you're hoping for, and it's not, honestly not what I'm hoping for. I'm an avid hunter. I own firearms. I have a firearm for a home defense, but I just want to call out that argument, because the solution to that problem as posed is we need to take away access and ability to get guns until we figure out a way to either fix our society or keep them from getting in the wrong hands. So to those who said that, nice try, but it actually logically backfires. All right, I'll stop ranting for now. Again, I'm Jim from Whiskey Congress. You can email me, jim@whiskeycongress.com. You can find our show on iTunes and you'll find this on YouTube, but our show's on iTunes, Stitcher. We're available on Twitter, so you can tweet at me if you don't want to write me an email, at whiskeycongress.com. Let's make America better, folks. That's all we want. See ya.